to Blerdlines. This is your man Cam. With me as always is
the other Cam, the last actually Negro, the Wokokaji, the most respected hater on the planet Earth and the galaxy.
as well as
Hey yo, this is Josh, aka the Dark Lord of the Caribbean Sith, known as Dark Coconut.
and always trying to keep us a little bit more villainy. Who else is left?
This is Lord Professor D of the House Morgoth, second of my name, speaker of the nerds, scourge of imbeciles, and breaker of pop culture and mediocre chains.
Adapted.
The whole, that's I'm literally just at the point where Duran gives his big rallying speech. I'm just like, this feels like
I don't care.
Well, no. It's a rousing speech. It does what it's supposed to do. It
I
gets
mean, you don't care about the character.
Battles, big battles about to happen. But this is not that kind of. This is not that if you know anything about them, about these books, this is not that kind of story. This is all very television-y storytelling. And for something that is this broad and this sweeping, a story that's this broad and this sweeping and this far-reaching, to have little goofy trappings of the little goofy trappings that you see in every show. If there's a war coming, somebody's giving a speech. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't.
The speech didn't bother me as much as that there's no emotional stakes behind it. I care about Duran only to an extent that he's there, and they've invested a considerable amount of scenes with he and Disa and what's going on and under the mountain with the king.
Right. And so to pivot from that to Elrond coming through on some, hey buddy, I really need your help. Like, all right, but I expected the answer to be nah, because I got this thing going on with my pops, and that's kind of important. Like, he's about to drive us to ruin, and I wish I could help you.
It made less sense. It didn't even make sense that Elrond would come there first. First of all, it was established that they had the army. They were just out of position before the Orcs army would arrive. So I was trying to understand, why was it that Elrond so desperately went? I get it that the Orcs had some numbers, but if that were the case, why didn't Gil-galad send him before to make an alliance with the dwarves rather than
wait until literally the last second?
That's what I meant when I wrote earlier by, for every step forward they make, if you know anything about TV drama, serial drama storytelling, you instantly notice the amateurish story tactics that they take. You knew that Duran wasn't going to make it to that battle. You already knew, because they had already established the kind of stakes that lent itself to Duran not making it to that battle.
Right.
Which you knew when you saw, and if you didn't know immediately, you knew as soon as you saw the king marching down those steps with his axe. You knew something was about to go down. I thought it would have been better if he used the Ring of Power to stop the army, to show how powerful those monarchs are when they possess those rings.
That, or like with the Battle of the Bastards, you don't know that this girl sent for the armies of the Vale. They got there.
But that didn't work.
They pull up and you're like, oh shit.
That only worked.
Huh?
That only worked from a Hollywood. Look how amazing this in the fifth hour Durex Monkey type shit. It didn't work from a storytelling perspective.
But my point is, it's certainly less transparent than they're doing on this thing. Because this thing was just like, hey, buddy, I need your help. Like, cool, I got you. Okay, rallying speech, and then gonna go. Like, I literally, I clicked our startup link just as just as he finished giving the speech. So I don't know what happens afterwards, but I'm just like,
I'm also entirely confused by the distance, because I'm like, is Origion right next to?
Right. Yeah. That was the first thing I thought.
Close that Elrond can ride
That
there,
Elrond can
ride
boldly
back
make
in
the
time.
statement. Well,
Wait, are we using logic again? Are we trying to use? Come on now.
No. I'm always going to use logic, because especially when it sticks out like a sore thumb and it makes even less sense. And again, after reading Tolkien, after reading Lord of the Rings, go ahead.
Go ahead, bro. Sorry.
No, you go for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's sad is it's sticking out to me, and I haven't read any of the books. I haven't read the Silmarillion. I haven't read any of the Lord of the Rings books. I haven't read the Hobbit, Jesus, when I was like 12, 10, somewhere thereabout.
Yeah.
So I haven't read it.
The Hobbit is one of those you pick up when you're a kid, for the most part.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's honestly, that was from the cartoon was the one that got me first. That's why I got
right. Same.
Yeah.
It's a terrible cartoon, but yeah.
Yeah, I got introduced more because I was already a C.S. Lewis, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe fan, so I was in that whole realm forever. Like that was just the thing I did, especially since going to Christian church for so long. And then when I saw the Hobbit cartoon, I was like, oh, what is this? And then I discovered the books, and then that's how.
Yeah, and Tolkien and C.S. Lewis were like, they were tight, right? So like they were basically writing at the same time and sharing ideas. That's why there's a lot of similarities, but Tolkien took a combination of pagan, Norse, and Judeo-Christian, whereas C.S. Lewis was like straightforward Judeo-Christian things and shit like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm still watching. I just wish that if they gone back, that they just cut some of the storylines and tighten up the writing. I thought it was tightening up, but then you get to an episode 7 where it's like, these are good battle, and we knew that this was building to the battle to this point, but the execution, the choreography, the emotional stakes, it's all lacking, and it's lacking seriously for the amount of money that they put into it.
Yeah, because they put so much more effort into in the deception of killing war that just, like everything else happening around that just kind of falls to the wayside.
Wait, I came in a little late. So what's the major beef with Rings of Power?
My major beef is that it's bad writing, and it continues to be bad writing.
In general, or just for a specific episode? Or
in general.
In general.
The subplots go nowhere. The characters are poorly developed. You don't care about what's happening, only in a larger grand scheme of things, meaning Sauron is evil. He's executing his plan. And beyond that, and people are trying to stop him. But beyond that, there's no reason to become emotionally invested as you watch as an audience member.
And for me, what sparked this was me just talking about how disjointed out of the leading up to the big battle, and then the battle itself seems to be. It's just, dumb stuff like, I think it would have viewed better if Elrond, asked for the help of the dwarves, and they cut to Duran to say anything, but he gets this determined look on his face, and then as a surprise they pull up, but instead you get this rallying speech and all this other stuff that kind of just it's all television, and it's a little, and I think that's one of the things that's to paraphrase what Dee was saying, it's there's too much television-ishness that is invading what is a really, it's good. The story's good on its own. You do some editing because you can't include everything, and they're not doing that. Like, they're just jamming in everything. They're spending too much time Celebrimbor in the forge, forging the rings, and just it just there's so much disjointed time. There's so much time mismanagement that it ends up with you not really caring about the things that you should be caring about, like the big battle that's sort of happening around everything in everything that's happening around Celebrimbor. Like it rings really hollow, like, because I think if you spend more time and if you allocate more time to different aspects of this of what's going on, you'll get that emotional tether. You'll start to care. You'll be surprised when Elrond and the other elves pull up, or if you're not surprised, you're like, okay, it's about to be on. Like, like it doesn't give you any of those things. Even Lord of the Rings, even what's it called? Even this thing, the freaking no, not Rings of Power. Other show.
Dragon?
Thank you. Not House of Dragon, but yeah. Even if even with not House of Dragon, before House of Dragon. Sorry,
I don't know.
I mean, after House of Dragon.
Some Game of
Thrones. Yeah, even with Game of Thrones, with the big battles. Like, I don't know why I could not remember the name of one of the most prominent series of all time. But yeah, Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Even with Game of Thrones, even with the decline, like there was still anticipation with certain things that were coming, even if you saw it coming. This is just, I don't know, man. Like I'm there's so many things that are awry that it's really hard to pinpoint one thing that's throwing it off, because it feels like and looks like whatever it doesn't feel, it looks like.
The one thing is it's built on a sandcastle of nostalgia. That's the only reason why they included the Harfoots. That's the only reason why for 16 episodes we have to wait to get the identity of this Ishtar, who is and isn't Gandalf. It's
so here's the thing.
It's built on a castle of sand.
I'm a little pushback. This is the same thing we saw with the trilogy. There are scenes.
No, it's not.
No, so
it is not.
I would disagree with that. Yeah. Well, before we disagree, why do you say?
Go ahead and yeah.
These narratives of the side stories we didn't care about was the same feeling I had during the trilogy. There were certain scenes and certain aspects of us following these characters that I did not care about. There were certain things where, like, I'm like, oh, in part 2, I did not care to see them march across the land on this journey. I cared about other things. I'm starting to see similarities. I agree. We don't need to care about their Harfoots. They're leaning on nostalgia.
So when you talk about when you talk about them marching across the land, you mean in the Fellowship of the Rings, like the first movie?
Part two.
Okay.
Yeah, part 2 is just them walking. Let's
pretty much.
Yeah.
The first one is them getting together and walking. Yeah.
So I agree on an aspect. There are parts of the
I have to say that if that's what you guys saw in part 2, I'm being disagree.
There are more, but this is gun to my head. I'm just giving an example. And agreeing with you, there are parts of the storyline that we don't care about. And like I said, them going to the Harfoots, it's part of the story that is like really not relevant too much, because the main story is not the Harfoots, it's who the stranger is. That's what they need to get to the point. They should have got to the point that 4 episodes ago. We need to already establish who that is, right?
Well,
I think they're trying to use 6-7 episodes ago.
Yeah.
We should have found out who he was at the very end of that season, if not before. These types of mysteries don't serve anything but to stoke nostalgia and to tease the audience.
And the tease is trying to make the tether between the wizard that will become Gandalf and the people who will become the hobbits. So
at this point, if it's not Gandalf, they just prove my point. It's amateur hour.
So start with the Harfoots existed when the hobbits existed. They're just different planes. So
Oh,
that's
really?
just lore.
I thought
Yeah,
they
that's
were
just
like
lore.
the
No,
forebearers.
they did.
Yeah.
The Harfoots did. The Stewards did. They're all an offshoot of one or the other based on migration.
Yeah.
But the Harfoots did not exist in Tolkien's narrative of the Second Age events.
No.
And when he decided, and Josh and I were just talking about this, when he decided to focus his story around first Bilbo and then Frodo, there's a very thematic reason for that. Because he had already established in his world, or he was establishing that the other races were too corruptible. Either in the case of Bilbo, he withstood the corruption of the gold, which we knew that it attracted smoke from wherever he was in the world, and it corrupted two Dwarven kings, including Thorin. So the only person that proved uncorruptible in that situation was Bilbo, a hobbit. Later, it took 60 years for the One Ring to start to unravel Bilbo's mind. That didn't start happening until his 111th birthday. And I know this because it's fresh in my mind. I just read it. And so you have to look at those connections and ask yourself, okay, why does Tolkien, when he has warriors like Aragorn and warriors like Legolas and even Gimli, why does he Gandalf, why does he put it from the perspective of these little people? Because they're incorruptible. And that was the point. And so when you put the Harfoots there, you're not following that trend that these characters are incorruptible versus all of these other beings in this world. Now you've missed the point. And that's what I think he was saying when people would say about Bombadil, oh, he's this, he's that. It's like, oh, you kind of missed the point about Bombadil and their connection to the Hobbits. And that's what I feel about the Harfoots, that they are nothing but a nostalgia tether to the Hobbits. And as we get further and further, there's proof of it.
Yeah, because if you give the ring to one of the Harfoots, I was like, okay, I see where this is going. There's a reason behind the madness, even though it's still leaning on nostalgic purposes. But in order, this is my theory.
Mm-hmm.
If this is Gandalf, this will give some insight to why Gandalf had a softer side to the Hobbits in Lord of the Rings. You establish the connection between him and the Harfoots.
Right.
Well, for this story, but I wouldn't consider that to be true for Tolkien.
The only reason I'm saying this is because of the Silmarillion that I'm reading right now and the connection of how they explain Olorin as Maiar, aka Gandalf, and who he was with. So that's just a little insight. That's my only theory. And the only reason I know that is because I'm reading the Silmarillion and I'm going into that rabbit hole. That's the only reason I could think. But I'm not just saying,
it, and that's the same impression I get.
Yeah, so this is the only reason I think that if this is Gandalf and they're having this connection with the Harfoots, they're establishing why, when you watch Gandalf and why does he have pity and he loves these hobbits so much, we're establishing that connection of bonding right now. If this is Gandalf, right? That's my only reasoning to come to the conclusion of why we have the Harfoots in this story, or they're playing they have so much screen time, right? So
that's not enough, because again, that shows that these writers don't quite.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just giving a reason why it might be there.
Yeah, no, I get it. I considered that as well. But for me, the conclusion was that it's not enough, because
they don't serve any purpose. Like, what is the purpose of the Harfoots outside of the nostalgic purpose? Like, what do they serve? Like, most characters have a purpose. The wizard definitely has a purpose.
He has a purpose.
Yeah,
no, he does.
Galadriel has a purpose. Elrond has a purpose. You know what I'm saying?
And they're the most interesting characters when they're on screen. The only problem with the Stranger storyline and the Wizard is that they're dragging it out for, again, reasons of nostalgia and to try to be mysterious for some kind of big time reveal that if it's Gandalf, it leads us right back to nostalgia. And if it's not Gandalf, it was just a bait and switch. Nothing more, nothing less. because if it wasn't Gandalf and wasn't intended to be Gandalf, then you could just go with the Blue Wizard storyline when they have the two of them show up at the very start of the series and head for Room, because that's exactly what happens in the Second Age and in that story. It could be that he is one of the two Blue Wizards and the Dark Wizard is the other Blue Wizard. But again, we're having to wait 8 episodes for that to
That's my real beat.
itself.
Waiting too long to give this reveal. Like, what is the big deal of revealing that this in this episode? I'm gonna still feel like, oh, okay,
nostalgia.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying a question out loud. Like, I know.
Yeah, I know you get it. I'm also just saying it out loud to be funny.
This is a money grab. Keep viewership
nostalgia and false suspense. That's really all it is.
It's false suspense because we know
100%. 100%.
People also read the Cliff Notes and not actually read the Silmarillion or the Children of Lothlorien. I can't.
Lothlorien?
Yeah, Tolkien. Weird.
So my overall question is so far, is this season better than last season?
Yes.
Okay.
Easy.
Now that part's there. Now, did they correct season 1 mistakes and just introduce a whole new mistakes, or did they carry over some of the bad ones and kind of expanded on it?
Both.
The latter.
The latter more, but I do think that they early on in the very first couple episodes, they established a better pace, a better narrative pace. It wasn't until we got back to the Harfoot and the Stranger and the Numenorians, oh my God, that story, that we start to drift away from the thing that's actually interesting. Not to mention more shit with Theo and Arendir. Nobody gives a fuck, to be honest. Like, nobody cares about Arendir because we haven't been given a reason to care about them. They killed the woman off screen. And so, he, in that recent episode, he's talking to Galadriel and she's like, he's about to sacrifice himself.
Bruh,
and I'm like, go ahead, let him kill him. You might as well get killed and get written off the show.
He is a Lafayette of Rings of Power, bruh. Like, he's just there. I don't know, maybe fans like him or something. You know what I'm saying?
What do you mean?
So, in my opinion, Lafayette in True Blood was never supposed to go past first season. He's such a fan favorite. This is just my guess.
Well, that's more than just an opinion. That's the way that the first book that show is based on goes. Lafayette is murdered at the very end of that book.
Yeah, but I'm just saying he wasn't supposed to be seen so far. And I'm feeling the same way about Arendir. Like, we don't need to see him. His love of his life is dead. He's going out on revenge. When he went to go do whatever you need to do to Adar, Galadriel should have been like, I get it. All right, bounce. End of story. He's going to either die or have a valiant intent and escape. But we don't need to see him anymore. I don't care about his stakes. He's
also
not
stopping her. Stopping him in that moment made no sense. He gets a good shot, and we know he's a great shot.
I was like,
he gets a good shot off at Adar. That whole fucking thing, Eregion doesn't have to fall as hard as it will eventually fall.
Yeah.
You kill Adar, you stop the whole thing.
It doesn't make any sense because we know Adar is not going to die. He's part of the
Well, he's only going to not die because, and this is the whole thing with Arendir, and it's not clear that even he's dead, which is they created these characters for this show specifically, and they're rocking with them because I still do not understand the point of Adar. I still do not understand that point. I don't understand this whole thing with the orcs not wanting to fight. The only thing I've enjoyed this season after those first 3 episodes has been Charlie Vickers as Anatar/Sauron. But I haven't enjoyed some of the writing around it. I didn't like that he repeated the same fucking thing to Celebrimbor when he realized who he was. I didn't like that he repeated the same thing he said to Galadriel last season. Come on, man.
Well, this is the one thing. These are a few things I'm actually interested in. How was Celebrimbor tricked by Sauron? Like, how did that happen? I am interested, actually, about the fall of Numenor. I want to know how that happened because I didn't read into it yet. So I wanted to see this on display. I was intrigued at how they were going to incorporate Tom Bombadil. Not that he's necessary.
God, don't get me started on that.
Not that he's necessary to this story. This is just my own personal, like, hey, Tom Bombadil, how are they going to? And they're just doing it very lazy. He's doing nothing, but he
did literally the same thing he did in Lord of the Rings for the Hobbits, and that's the most disappointing about them including him because he says the same lines, he has the same action. Saving, and that one ain't even Old Man Willow because Old Man Willow is in the Withy Willow, which is in Middle Earth proper, not Rune.
Yeah, so I was intrigued until the last episode of how Galadriel and the Orcs were going to band up. I don't understand why the Orcs are not fighting. I thought that's what they lust for. Now all of a sudden they're becoming humanized. I'm like, all right.
These writers are amateur. It don't make sense because they were ill made by Morgoth. They were twisted into what they are.
Yeah, so here's a little context. And the only reason I know this is because of Silmarillion, is that the elves that did not heed the call to come to see the Valar,
to fight alongside the Valar.
To go against Morgoth. When Oroime invited them, they went deeper and they were scared because Morgoth had put whispers of saying that when you see this Valar, he's evil, he's taking him. And they were like, nah, and they got corrupted. Once they got corrupted, they went to his first stronghold, which I cannot think of the name of. And they were
one that starts with an A. I can't remember. It's like
no, it starts with the O. A is the second.
Oh yeah. A is the one he went to after
Admar or whatever. That's his second stronghold that Sauron took over once they captured Morgoth.
Yeah.
So once they got there, they were deep. They were being tortured, and that's how the creation of the Orcs came about. Mm-hmm. Morgoth created them, and they were just pure. Like this is a little off topic, but as I'm reading the Silmarillion, it just comes to me that Morgoth is just a big ass hater. He hated everything. Like he did not like. He wanted dominion. He wanted to just anything that the Valar created. Morgoth went in there and wanted to just knock shit over. Basically, that's
Discord.
Yeah,
he was Eru. Imagine the music, right? Yeah. And the Annuili, or however you pronounce the Valar before they enter the world.
Oh, the Anur.
Yeah. Were they were the ones who basically took all of Eru's what he wanted and he thought, and they turned it into the music of Arda. Yep. That's the reason why I said if you don't really understand why, if you don't understand Tolkien, if you don't make the larger connections of why the hobbits are his protagonists. Remember what Gandalf says, there are some things that have already been written for this world, and everybody has a part to play. The music of Arda is that thing. So the Valar already know where this shit is going. That's why they can't interrupt, because Eru is like, you make the music, and if you want to go and experience it and see it out, you can. And that's those ones entered the world as the Valar.
So is there a way to... I mean, we've come to how many episodes we in now? 8, 6, 7?
7, yeah.
Is there a way to save it, or is it that the amateurish is basically it? We've gone too far.
I defer to the people who know what's coming next.
I think you can save it. It's just a matter of cutting out the fat, trimming the stuff that really is not working. The Harfoots is not working. Tried it. It's not working. They need to leave those characters with the stewards or whatever and just move away from them. And
tell us
more.
Who the stranger is.
Tell us who the goddamn stranger and the dark wizard is. I mean, that's even that is a sign of just how amateurish this thing is. Where it's like, that's not how people talk. At some point, someone would have used his name, or they would have said why they're not using his fucking name.
Yeah.
You can't just be like the dark wizard. It's the laziest thing ever. And that's when I started to see that, and the fact that they only Kieran Hines, man, the man who's been in almost every freaking fantasy, high fantasy, whatever adaptation, you use him for 2 fucking episodes or 2 scenes.
That's disrespect.
I will say this: it's not as bad as if this was season 1. If it was the same as season 1, I'd have been like, "There's no saving this." But off the first rip, the first 3-4 episodes was awesome. I was like, "Okay,
yeah."
It was
because they focus on Sauron. He's the most interesting part.
So you're asking, could this be saved? Yes, it could be saved because we just saw it in the first 4 episodes.
Yes, we saw the potential right there. I think I text to all you, to either Cam, I texted to the group. I said the scene where the orcs and Adar jump Sauron is probably the best thing that they had done so far. And
I was not expecting that.
I wasn't either, and I loved it because it was a different actor, so it spoke to his power as a shapeshifter. He can take any form he wants, but the only problem is with that and changing that fact is the fact that Sauron, once his fair form was destroyed, he couldn't take it, and so, and that form was destroyed. It wasn't destroyed until the changing of the world and the drowning of Numenor. So already they've made him change forms. It's one thing for him to go from Halbrand, a man, to Anatar, who hears Elvish, but he reconstituted a full body when he wasn't supposed to do that after one form was destroyed, after that fair form was destroyed. But again, that's apples and oranges. You know, if I was adapting it, I would have went with the more about him losing that form during the drowning of Numenor, because that's when you realize just how powerful he really is.
Yeah. So yeah, long story long, yes, it can be saved. Will they do it? We don't know.
Yeah.
And so they only have 1 episode left. So I mean, I'm assuming that unless a miracle happens, which in the new episode's like actually a couple days. So or the last episode, I should say.
They're gonna have another season, man. They can't. I don't see how they can end them.
Yeah, they had already. Amazon had already gave them a 5-season arc, and they said that that's what they planned for, the 5 seasons. So I'm willing to give them that. Still continue to give them a chance on the preface of they have a plan. And I saw the makings of that plan when I rewatched season 1, and I saw more of it in season 2. However, I will stick to the saying or the belief that they're not really understanding or aren't good at plotting a serialized drama from this source for 8 episodes. Because I think you don't need to necessarily have a character-driven story in this case. You could have just had strong plotting and have the characters doing interesting things. When they opened in season 1 and Galadriel was on the hunt for Sauron, it was intriguing. It was interesting. But then they quickly moved from that to her being sent to Valinor and then jumping off the ship and just kind of drifting until she was used by Sauron and all that stuff, or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So it's just that part. Just stick with the plotting. Don't worry about trying to give us these various character stories. Don't try to be Game of Thrones. Be Lord of the Rings. They work well. Exactly. Be Tolkien. Do not try to be Martin.
Yeah, I could see that. And I think that's, you know what? That is where I'm going to leave it. This is your precursor to Rings of Power before the end. You should watch the last episode. But thanks for everybody listening. We'll see you guys later.